Well, hello to everyone who's taking time out of their day to listen to me ramble. Let me welcome you to I Have No Inner Geek podcast. Since there's no one else here with me and I'm just sitting in the car waiting for my sister-in-law to come out of the grocery store, I figure this is a perfect time to be in a car, like a soundproof booth. Let's talk about Joker. All right. So going into the film, I didn't know exactly what to expect. When it was first announced that they were going to be shooting a standalone Joker movie, I thought to myself, okay, what the hell's going on here? Let me give a standard disclaimer. Being a son of the bat, I try and still remain objective when it comes to critiquing and criticizing any material surrounding Batman or the Bat universe or any of that. So let's get into it a little bit. Joker, for what it was a well-acted, well-crafted film, and though it may not have been the comic book Joker, or it didn't feel like Joker to some, I think that might have a little bit to do with Todd Phillips's announcement over the summer that fans were going to be upset and there'd be backlash and they'd be disappointed because they didn't draw anything from the comics. It was its own story. And I thought that this did a disservice because DC already having enough strikes against it when it comes to their extended universe, with everything that went on with Zack Snyder and Justice League and the Snyder Cut and all this back and forth, and then not having like a real success until say Wonder Woman, Shazam, Aquaman. I thought that, hey, maybe you guys want to keep that under wraps, that it's going to have nothing to do with the comic book. But and not only that, but it was also going to be rated R. So I said to myself, like, man, you guys are shooting yourselves in the foot because you're going to lose half your audience because it's going to be a rated R movie, since it's going to be adult themes, and it's not based on any comic books, and you're expecting the comic book fans to get outraged in today's super hypersensitive hashtag activism BS Twitter harassment world that we live in. I said, hey, why don't you just let people see the movie and then let them complain and be disappointed and tweet and do whatever the hell. So Phillips saying that it's not drawn from any comic book storylines, they want to do their own thing, is BS. I'm going to jump down one of my well-known rabbit holes and use Jason Momoa starring as Conan the Barbarian. When he was promoting the film, I believe he was on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and Jay Leno asked him if he had ever seen the original Conan with Arnold Schwarzenegger, to which he said no. Number one, hey, who the hell hasn't seen, what guy hasn't seen Conan the Barbarian? It's one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's best movies because he barely speaks in it. He only has a few lines and the character suits him. But the reason being why Jason Momoa said he didn't watch Conan is so he wouldn't subconsciously try and mimic what Arnold had done so he could do his own thing. And I've seen actors and actresses say this before, but here's my problem with that. If you don't watch Conan the Barbarian, that original one, how do you know that something you're doing in the movie is not original because it's already in the original Conan movie? Yeah, if you dig what I'm saying. So Todd Phillips saying that it wasn't based on any comic books, it doesn't add up, because in The Killing Joke, out of the three stories that are told, the three narratives, any one of those narratives in the Joker film would have fit right in. Him as a fledgling stand-up comic, him suffering from great tragedies in his life. So either you read The Killing Joke and you're just trying to say, hey, whatever. Because if you didn't, you decide to take The Killing Joke, you take Taxi Driver, and you take some Martin Scorsese, and you take some crime dramas, and you mush them together, and you get Joker. Now, again, Joaquin Phoenix was excellent in this portrayal of the Joker. And the movie has much more to do with DC Universe or comics or Gotham in general. It's in there. It's not like this is completely detached and it's not in Gotham City, and there's no connection to Batman, or there's no Batman in it, not yet, but there's definitely the overtone of it being in Gotham, and that's something that I wasn't expecting. So whenever we learn, and these are small little spoilers, so I'll post, hey, spoilers here. The moment you see Thomas Wayne on the television screen, they're asking Thomas Wayne if he's going to run for mayor. Boom. Okay, here we go. So there's definitely a groundwork that's being laid here that is from the comic books, with a sense of realism and grit, right? So, an argument that the film was well done, or it was just about a mentally ill man who snapped and yada, yada, yada. Here's a counterpoint to that. The Dark Knight, Chris Nolan's Dark Knight. Again, biasedly, one of my favorite films of all time. It's a Batman movie, so of course, right? But I'm not a fan of Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight is an excellent heist film, but Dark Knight could have been any other generic character in that place, and it still would have been an entertaining and dramatic film. The only thing that makes it a Batman movie is the fact that Christian Bale puts on a bat suit and he uses bat gadgets. It could have easily been a James Bond movie, or it's James Bond and Q instead of Lucius Fox, and James Bond has all these friggin' gadgets and he does all this shit to catch a money launderer, and at the same time, there's the madman arch villain. So it's generic, and they could just throw him in a bat suit and you get some Batman backstory and you throw it in there, and that's what makes it Batman. Because Heath Ledger's Joker has no background whatsoever in the movie. He starts to tell the tale of how he got the scars. Now that's borrowed from The Killing Joke as well, because you don't know exactly what went down, because he changes the story slightly each time he tells it to someone. Go read The Killing Joke if you haven't read The Killing Joke to understand why I keep referencing The Killing Joke. So the Joker never having a real definitive origin, except for Jack Nicholson's Jack Napier in Tim Burton's 1989 film Batman, which is my favorite film of all time. That's the most definitive on-screen origin birth of the Joker that we've seen. And even that's borrowed from The Killing Joke. It takes heavy elements from The Killing Joke. It was written by Alan Moore, illustrated by Brian Boland. Now on to the prerequisite, pre-rage, pre-violence BS that went on with promoting the film and extra security and all this other garbage that went on. This movie is no violent than any other absolute crazy violent movie that we as Americans see every day, or what we watch on our normal television programs every day. I understand that because of the shooting during The Dark Knight, this was a heightened sense of whatever, okay? John Wick has murdered well over 300 people in all of his movies. He shoots everybody in the head, and there hasn't been a John Wick shooting. Now, I'm not going to trail off into the whole influence of mass media and violence on television that adds to the desensitization of us as viewers, because it does. I'm not going to get into that right now. It can influence someone to do bad things the same way it can influence someone to do good things, but I'm just going to leave it right there. But it was violent. It will make you feel uncomfortable. Give me a break. The fact that a movie could pull these emotions from you says that it's a good movie. If it's pulling on some strings there. But bump all of this uncomfortability kind of BS that they're talking about. Joaquin Phoenix did an incredible job at unraveling, and it was brilliantly played, and I enjoyed the film, and I recommend people go and see the film. But don't dissuade yourself from not going to see it because they said, oh, it has nothing to do with the comic books. It's just a separate story. It could be any origin of the Joker. Okay? We've seen the Joker's origin in Gotham a handful of times. There's one thing that I know is that Gotham's always going to have a Batman that we learned in Batman Beyond. So Waller says that Gotham's always going to need a Batman, but there's always going to be a Joker. There's always going to be a Joker to counter Batman. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and stay tuned for updates for the enhanced visual versions of these podcasts. To some, I think that might have a little bit to do with disappointed because they didn't draw anything from the comics. Everything that went on was Zack Snyder and Justice League and the Snyder Cut. Asked him if he had ever seen the original Conan with Arnold Schwarzenegger, to which he said no. Number one, hey, who the hell hasn't seen, what guy hasn't seen Conan the Barbarian? It's one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's best movies because he barely speaks in it. Out of the three stories that are told, the three narratives, any one of those narratives in the Joker film would have fit right in. Him as a fledgling stand-up comic, him suffering from great tragedies in his life.
So remember, put on